Mary has been having Shane and I in stitches just now. She is the USA Today best-selling author. She's also the author of the Writing Active Hooks and a Writer's Guide to Active Settings, and she is absolutely phenomenal. I've been on her course for body language. I'm going to be going on other courses for it, and she might be talking about courses later on. Absolutely inspirational, and today is going to be a phenomenal session. So in the chat I see that Hope's written kindness, passion, love, which is absolutely fantastic. Yes, that's what we're all about. If anyone's new to the community today, we're all about kindness. So let's give Mary our full Fictionary kindness, and then also bring on some fantastic questions, because I can say that Mary is an absolute font of all knowledge. She is absolutely amazing. Okay, so if there's any questions that you want to pop into the chat, and we'll get started on there. So I'll start with a question. Let's have a look. What's the best piece of writing advice you've ever received?
The best piece. Ooh, there's lots of them. Probably the thing that has helped me the most is someone said to invest in yourself. And as a writer, we have a tendency to, we'll get the kids, the second pair of shoes or whatever it is that we're trying to, hold together with the family, and, a job, and do the best there and the best there. But it's harder to give it to yourself. It really can be a challenge to say, you know what, it's okay. If I need this book, I'm not going to go wild and crazy. Though that's not true. All of us as writers do go wild and crazy with books, but it's a commitment. It is showing the universe that this is what I want. I may not yet believe it, but I want this, and I can invest in myself. Whether it's a cup of tea or coffee out, or an audio, or whatever it is, and it's different for all of us. So I think it helped me.
That's absolutely brilliant. So can I ask, how did you first become interested in writing?
Well, I grew up in a family of artists, visual artists. They were painters and sculptors and this and that and the other thing. And then they'd look at me and they'd say, oh, Mary doesn't do anything except she can tell stories. And it was like I was bottom of a totem pole. They didn't mean it mean, because they always used me to get their resumes put together. But it was just the belief that I had to marry my husband, who was an artist, before I believed, because he told me that writing is a creative endeavor. It's an art. It's like, why hadn't anybody told me this? But you watch TV and you see where the writer is the crazy person, and they're the self-indulgent person, and you don't get a true idea what a innate gift it is for those who must write, as opposed to someone who wants to lie on a divan, with a cigarette in a holder, and have a half-naked man serve her teas. And if you get that, invite me over and I'll try it and see if it works. But the truth is that I never thought I could be a writer. So I, like a lot of people, work is work, and anything we want is on the side. Well, work to me was working in a bank, in international banking, because I hate numbers. So trust me, that was work. Writing was not work. It was, And the first writers' conference I went to, where the writer who was the guest speaker said that she'd lay on the couch and think about her stories. I looked around to see who was taking notes and who was going to tell on her. What did she get to do to lay on a couch? Just to sit down.
That's absolutely fabulous that your husband is the supporter, your main cheerleader, the person who said, actually, Mary, this is to have someone who you love telling you to do what you love is just so beautiful. And then also, I think you're surrounded by people here who are all the must writes. We're all the people here who must write. We have an absolute desire to get our story out. So then can I ask you, what made you decide to then step into writing craft books? Because they're phenomenal. What made you go over to that side?
Over to the dark side.
The exciting side.
It's only because that way it gave me a chance to say that I got to the dark side. Now, to me, I wrote the books that I couldn't find the answers for as a writer. And you know how editors and agents would always say, well, I know what I want to see, but I can't tell you what I want to see until I see it. And it was like, whoopee, that doesn't help me do this. So I have an analytical brain. It's the only thing that kept me sane with the 5 kids, but it literally helped, like hooks. You've got to have hooks. Well, where do you have to have them? Well, I don't know. You're the writer. You've got to have setting. And it was when I was helping other people too, and I kept seeing people stumbling over the things that I stumbled over. And I think that in some ways, I think it's phenomenal if you can teach without ever having done something, but to have a writer who knows what it's like to face that blank page and is not, my hubby calls it stubborn. I call it determined. But I wanted to figure out, I wanted to break things down. I want to see, how do I use this? And once I figured something out, it was like, okay, now I got to read 6,000 more books to see how other writers, are they doing this intentionally or stumbling into it? And I don't want people to have to go through the years that it can take us to get published because someone doesn't show us with our own, break it down. See, this person could have written it that way, but if they just did a little more over here, that can make it a world of difference. Because there's enough that's challenging with writing, that trying to figure out the craft of it.
So in the hooks book, when you said, where do the hooks go? You've got a lovely section in there which says where they should go throughout a scene. And one of my friends and I, one January day in January, it was wet outside, and I said, right, we're going to the library. So we went to the local library in the village and we sat there and we pulled out all the different types of books, because you also suggest in your brilliant book to choose outside your genre, which was absolutely revolutionary, because I started to see, and I wasn't drawn into the story because it might not be a story that always resonated with me, but boy, could I pull out all the amazing hooks and go, oh yeah, I can see why that's there. I can see that why that's there. And it's the most amazing. So recommend a day out in the library and take Mary's book with you, and then you can figure it all out. And also, Mary's been so kind and generous. She's got the 10 content hooks on that I'll be putting into the community after this talk, and you can then use that as well to look at your own work to find out if you've got those 10 content hooks. It's amazing. Right, so let's go back. So how do you see the ever-evolving publishing landscape, how do you stay updated on the craft of writing?
Oh, go to the bar or the pub with other writers, because that's where you find out all the, especially after the second beer, it's like, okay, now tell me what you really think. We're in such a period of change. Some days I feel like I started back when we were the cavemen pounding out my first manuscript on stone compared to where we are today. And that training yourself to not only accept change, but to look forward to it keeps you open to hearing who's doing what, where, and how. And that's a key. Oftentimes when I taught live in person pre-pandemic, one of the things I would have people do is they came to a workshop and there's 50 of them, and I have them get up and move to some place that they didn't know someone closely at that table. And there were some people that could not do that. And it wasn't to make them feel uncomfortable, but it was to start training them to, we get myopic many times with what we're writing. We only read what we're writing, or we only talk to those who are writing exactly what we're writing. And we miss this beautiful world out there with all these insights and information that we're kind of blocking ourselves off from success. So hanging out with people who are challenging themselves. If you're in a critique group, if one person is not better than you are and one person needs help, that's a great critique group, because then you can help show somebody, but you can also learn from somebody. But challenging ourselves with change and accepting that it's part of the business and it's fast and we don't have to know everything can be helpful.
I love that. Very inspirational. You always are, Mary. Looking forward to change. That's a Maryism for me now. So I've got a question from Joe here. What's one question you've always wanted to be asked and never have? For me, hey, can we pay you a little bit more? That's Joe's question.
I guess my question is, how did you get that svelte figure? No one's asked me that one for some reason.
Like, I don't get that one. No, that's all good. Right, the next question. Looking up Mary's books, I noticed the setting books. There's 1, 2, and 3, and there's a writer's guide to active setting. Is the big book a combination of the 3 books, or are they all separate books?
1, 2, and 3 break it down in smaller increments. So I have 10 different ways to use your setting to do more than just show a setting. And so I broke it down into 3 small ebooks. Then Writer's Digest, which was the biggest company here in the United States that sold craft books and things. They put out a magazine for writers, etc. They came to me and asked me to do a print version. And I'm one of those authors that like the print version because then I can mark it all up and put flags on it. And my husband can tell me how good a book is by how many flags there are hanging out of it. And so that book has some of the ones from the first 3 books, but more and different examples too.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. So, your craft books are renowned for their practical advice. How do you determine which techniques and strategies to include?
I think that answers Joe's, what's one question you've always wanted to be asked? To me, I look at the intention, and then the reason I have practical writing craft books is I break down other people's work in all types of genres, except horror, because that keeps me awake. But in all genres, to see, is this concept? And so I break it down and break it down and break it down, and then figure out how can I get that process across to somebody else. It used to be wonderful when I was doing live in-person workshops, but even online, I love it because I can say, write this hook and then submit it as homework. And that way, then I can see what your words are, what your intention is, what your genre is, and then say, how about this? Or consider that. Or you may not realize you thought you had one hook, but you have 7. So until somebody else with a little more experience, and that's having a course with friends, is invaluable, because then after you're done with the course, you can look at your friends and say, okay, what did Mary say? Or what did she mean by this? Or if you're critiquing each other's work, they can say, no hooks here, honey. Back to the drawing board.
I do know Polly and I and Heather Wood as well have been on one of your courses together, and that's exactly what we do. We do like to, and Polly and I are actually this weekend going to go through it again, because there's just so much information on your courses, Mary. They're phenomenal. But it is absolutely amazing. So how do you approach the balance between teaching rules of writing and encouraging creativity?
Interesting, because that question presupposes that by understanding the underlying framework of the craft, that you're taking away the creativity. And the reality is you're allowing the creativity to come out, because now you have a tool that, whether it's the first draft or the 50th draft, you can go back and say, you know what, here's the opportunity missing on the page. And to me, I don't want anyone, whether we're talking about plotting or scene and sequel or story structure, whatever, to think you have to do it this way. There's only one way to understand this. It's not. It's like, this is just a tool like any other tool, and you use it when you need it. And being creative is part and parcel. Being creative in the concept of the story and the characters and all that wonderful, juicy stuff, but having an understanding of how to get that book sold and how to get it so that readers are asking for it is just part of the business. And that's where some of the craft books that I use or write are geared towards, you got this part down, let's get it to this next level. So to me, that's kind of a fun, different creativity. It's like, how do you balance the budget when nothing is coming in this week? It's like, I can be creative there.
So yes, definitely all the fictionarians do understand that tools mean that it's form, not formula. So you're using it, but you're not using it because there's just one rule. You can break any rule you want, as long as you've got lots of other places where it's nice and strong enough to hold that broken rule in there. So I've got a question from Jean here. Speaking of change and the dark side, what's your take on the AI explosion happening now? Do you see any benefits?
I do see benefits. I see lovely, juicy benefits. And the reason being that when you're published, and the more published you are, the more demands there are on posting on social media and being present here and writing this there and writing this the other way. And AI can act as a sounding board. Doesn't mean it's always right. It doesn't mean it's going to take over my voice. Sometimes my kids wish it would, because they they want it. It's a tool like any other tool. It's like, I've had people who will not use computers to work. They want to be purists and use only typewriters. And if that works for you, that's great. And then there's the purists that love the pen to the paper. That's a process, works for you, let it work. Don't use AI, do use AI. It's not for the book itself, but it's all that other stuff around the book that it can be helpful. So, you don't have to, in 2 minutes, make it sound exciting. It's like, well, this is what the book is about. Now, AI, take that. We can write 80,000 words, but trying to put it down to 150 words can be problematic. AI can help with something like that.
Brilliant.
Also, you can call it names, and it doesn't, it doesn't get mad at you at all.
Right. Laura's got a very strong question here, and it's coming from your heart, Laura, which is a lovely one here. So I'm going to read it out, and then Mary. So Laura said, do you ever lose confidence and wonder if your writing is as good as it should be? I suffer terribly from this self-criticism, and it keeps me down. What can I do to make sure be more sure of my writing?
Laura, I hear you. I understand you. There isn't a writer I know, whether they are just starting out or on the New York Times list and their 40th book is coming out, that does not have that doubt and that it's all going to fall apart. It's not really as good as I think it should be. Here's the cool thing. That awareness is what makes you a writer. Feeling that strongly. But the only person that we use that against is ourselves. We use it as a cudgel. We've heard it, particularly if you hear the word should, and I should be doing, I should be writing more, I should be writing this instead of that. Whatever it is, if you hear the word should, that is an authoritarian voice in your head that you were told long, long time ago what was right and what was wrong. But we don't live in that kind of world. We live in a world that your awareness, your feeling strongly is exactly what we need in our work. If it didn't matter so much to you, you wouldn't feel this. So you're not just slapping whatever together. You are literally pulling from inside of you to create. So it's like going through birth again and again and again. So it is your inner voice trying to protect you. And it is, just thank it for watching out for you and set it aside and say, I mean, if we can set our characters aside, we can set aside these voices long enough to say, let me get done with this chapter or this scene. And then I'll think about what you have to say to me. And that way you're claiming your strength, because it's a beautiful strength to have. I hope that helps a little bit.
That is absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Mary. And it's something that, as all writers, we all share that vulnerability. I have to say again, when I went on Mary Buckham's course and I did one of her exercises and was having a chat about it, I did go, oh, turns out that I can't write emotion that well because, in my real life, I try not to be so emotional. And so on my page, it didn't come out. And Mary's like, yes, it's quite obvious. I was like, oh, okay, that's great, because now I know how to fix it, which is just absolutely brilliant. And that's what Polly and I are going to be going and researching. So it's just absolutely marvelous. So this one actually might work with Laura's. Can you share a moment in your career that was particularly challenging and how you overcame it?
The moment yesterday or the one before? Um, what is oftentimes, I think we get our message of what it is to be a writer from either warm and fuzzy to I have to go out and drink heavily to become a writer. These images that others who are not writers come out. And those moments, and trust me, there are lots of them, that I can't do this. I just really can't do this. Voices come up, and I remember a day I got a rejection from an agent that I really, really wanted. And oh boy, it was a blasting letter, as only someone who is from New York can write, in that sense of, you have no idea what you're talking about, blah, 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 blah. So I left the house. I walked into the woods near the house, and it was like, okay, that's it. I'm done. Done. I can humiliate myself in other ways. I don't need to do it this way. And I got about 25 feet down the path. And then I thought, you know what? If this character said this and the other character did that, because the stories don't stop just because we need to lick our wounds. And then it also helped that when I got back home, there was another letter. And this was from a editor at a publishing house that I really admire. And she said, I love your concept. Everything that this other one hated. I love this. Send me the whole book. And it was like, I'll admit it. I was petty. It was like, take that, agent. But it was, and then about a month later, this manuscript that I had written and submitted, and the editor was reading it. Her office building in New York looked out at the Twin Towers as they were bombed. I was writing romantic suspense. I had a Middle Eastern terrorist as the bad guy in my story, and I just happened to pick Osama bin Laden as the guy in my book. So I sent her an email and I said, I don't want you to have to read this, given what you're going through there. So I will try again and get you another manuscript. But that is one of those, you can't control those kind of things. You know, on the other hand, I guess I had very honed into the bad guys out there. And I just look up a guy on the internet and it's like, well, this sounds like it would be a really good guy to have as the villain in this piece. I was right about that. So you take your wins where you can get them, and then you keep moving forward.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, so that was a challenge, but you came it with grace, as we would only expect from Mary Buckham. How do you maintain a balance between your writing projects and your craft teaching?
There's supposed to be a balance. Well, there went my plan. I find that it's, to me, writing the craft books and thinking about the craft books and doing the research for the craft books is like a cleansing of the palate sometime that can get me back on an equilibrium to then look at my own manuscripts with clarity, because we can get so close to what we're writing. And particularly, I live out in the country, and so thank heavens for Zoom. But other than that, there's not a lot of there's a lot of writers around, but I haven't had a lot of contact. So
Mm.
doing the craft books just kind of is like anything else that you do. If you only use one side of your body a lot, you get kind of like that. Well, same with my mind. I need that so I can go to sleep at night, because that way I'm fresh to write the fiction in the morning.
Yes. So, so your writing routine, Mary, would you be comfortable sharing that with us?
My routine is whatever works. I remember once I was in my vehicle and I was leaving town and the car broke down and it was a rainy day. And so I was trapped there and I called up the hubby again, come save this or save the situation or call whoever has to fix this. And pretty soon there was a knock, knock, knock at my window. And it was a police officer. And I rolled the window down. He said, can I help you? Can we get you a jump or something? He's like, no, I'm writing. It was the first quiet, functioning place that I could think and I could write. And I wasn't going to let anybody, I wasn't going to let the law enforcement, I wasn't going to let the tow truck, anybody break that, because I was so into the story. I didn't even see this man drive up, park, get out, and walk up to me. So you take it where you can get it and you just be prepared. This routine can work sometimes, another routine can work other times. And, it's just, you do what you got to do.
That's fantastic. Right. Hope's got a question. Do you plan to write more craft books?
Yes. Thank you, Hope. And I have no idea, was that a feather boa or?
No, it's pom-poms, because we're cheering for more craft books. Yay!
I thought you had this feather boa in the background. It was like, oh, quite the diva.
Pretty much. No, cheering you on, Mary, with pom-poms behind all the way from Fictionary Arians. We're all going to be cheering for the next craft book. All three.
Well, I hope it's going to be on body language. That's the one that I.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Was that really professional? Yeah, no, that'd be a really good idea, Mary. I love that idea. Yes.
If I was doing that, I'd have feathers up my nose and be trying to picking them out of my hairs.
Yes. So, right, to go back to good, strong questions. Everybody is saying yes to the body language, Mary. Absolutely. If you've got a straw poll in the Fictionary community, we're all going woohoo. Right. So what books are currently on your reading list?
Ooh. I just finished a wonderful book last night. It was called Chemistry. And it's not a romance, it's a woman's fiction about the 50s and the 60s. Love that. Just loved it. So I picked up Neil Gaiman's not the Graveyard Book, but that one's a great one. This was another one about the character Odd, ODD. I picked that up last night and it was like, I shouldn't have done that, because then there was another couple hours gone as I was going through it. The troublesome.
Odd and the Frost Giants.
Yes, Odd and the Frost Giants. There was one that came out here. I like former President Barack Obama. He comes out with lists, both fiction and nonfiction, and there's always something amazing. And he recommended one called The Troublesome Woman of Something Creek. And it was about a woman in the 30s that in the hollows of Kentucky or West Virginia, wherever it was, she was one of the first women who rode books up. She was a librarian and she had a mule and she went up, and there was the people that did not get out and couldn't get to books otherwise. And that was, wish I knew what that one was called.
So,
The Troubles.
so the Bookwoman of Troublesome Creep.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Oh my
I'm
gosh,
just
that looks amazing.
Lucy come along so she can do the quick look up. Lessons in Chemistry. Yes, that's the book.
Yes. I've been told to read that one too by someone very close to me. So looking forward to all of these books. Absolutely fabulous. Right. So are there how would you handle criticism?
Not
Firstly,
very well.
love the honesty, Mary. I was going to say the constructive one and the not so constructive criticism.
That's the first thing you do, is you divide it into, is this going to help me grow? If I can step back and look at it, and is this going to help? And if it's not going to help, this may be where somebody else is coming from. Early on in my career, I would write 20 pages a day. Each child can interrupt me once for blood. But otherwise, I would, 3-4 hours, I would come out of my little cubbyhole and take care of them. But then you can only interrupt me if there's copious blood. And it got to the point that the kids were sending the youngest child in because he looked so angelic. And they figured that I would not bite his head off while I was in the middle of a sword fight between my characters. But it was just, and someone told me, no, you can't write 20 pages a day. And so I went to 15. Oh, no, you can't do that. And I went down and down and down. And I found out it was because she could not. So you have to be aware of, there is constructive criticism that helps you grow as a writer, that says, you're right, you're not quite there yet doing this particular, but I have no doubt that you're going to get there. That's constructive. That helps us as writers. But if somebody is just trying to, they don't like it, that's their problem. So you smile, you say thank you. Then you go, cupboard doors are really good for slamming at times. Or put a quarter in the jar that says, okay, now I know who I'm. You get somebody who doesn't read what you're writing and they give you, I don't like that. I just, and have a reward for just being professional about it and saying thank you.
That's really the Maryisms coming out of this talk today are just absolutely fabulous. And always ask yourself with the criticism, is this going to allow you to grow? And that is absolutely powerful. And then also making sure that you know where all the cupboard doors are, or pennies in the jar. Also brilliant. Okay, so let's have a talk. How would you like to have a chat about the feedback you get from your readers and your students, then learn from this feedback? So you've got your books out there, and then you'll get feedback, and does that then feed into how you teach the students that come on your courses?
It does. And it's interesting because on the live courses that I online live courses, there may be someone who struggles with something and nobody else is struggling with it. Well, then that's probably something that is more specific to this person. But if 4 or 5 people are saying, I don't get this, I don't understand it, it's like, Mary, get your act together and see how you can explain it in a different way. How would you rewrite this? It's that I think it's wonderful, because getting feedback in real time means that it can help other people. And you get, but if it's someone who just, I don't like this, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do any of the homework, I don't want to read any of the stuff, but why am I not getting better? And that's where you try not to bite your tongue too much online, or at least have a cloth handy to wipe up the blood, because there are some people who, the closer they get to success, get afraid.
Yes. Yes, very much so. Now that we're talking about your courses, would you like me to pop into the group chat your special offers, Mary?
Yes, and I really want to give a big thank you and a shout out to Hope Douglas, who reached out to me earlier and said, are you going to give any discounts for your upcoming courses? And it's like, well, brilliant. I never thought of that. So what I had Tech Guy do, usually I give discounts to those people on my newsletter list as a way to thank them for opening my newsletter. But this discount that I'm giving you here, there is it goes to my classroom, and there's a link to the classroom there, and there's a coupon code that you can use until August 31st, West Coast US time, midnight, and it will take 25% off any course, and as many courses as you want, but you have to use the code each time you get into a course. But that, I teach because I know what it was like to be in this desert of trying to find information, and I would read books, and they'd be big books, and I'd go through them, and it was like, it was all somebody's stories, but it did not help me, except as a doorstop. So that's what I want to do as a teacher. If I can't help you, maybe I can send you to someone who can. If my approach doesn't work for you, it doesn't mean that that's on me, that it just doesn't click, and that's okay. So this 25% off, so whatever the cost of the class is, you'll take 25% off that. And there's small classes like 90-minute thingy dingies, and there's 4 or 5 weeks. The next one's coming up is plotting for any genre. Come next year, I'll be doing one on plotting for romance. And yes, you can take the 25% off that. And then there's going to be sexual tension and body language. And later this month, I don't have it up in the classroom yet, but I'm giving one on using archetypes. And it's going to, so understanding characters, archetypes, the males and the females. And that's not up in the classroom yet, but if you're interested in that, just send me an email and I'll make sure that you get a coupon specifically for that as soon as I get my act together and get it up. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Absolutely. Everybody is saying thank you for this class. It's been very informative, and please enjoy the rest of your day. Who do we email to get on the archetypes class? So if you go into the classroom, which is up in the chat, then you'll be able to get in there and you'll be able to email Mary Buckham directly. And everyone's saying thank you. And the classes, you can Polly and I both absolutely swear by them because they're absolutely amazing. wonderful classes. I know that other people have been on them and they're just phenomenal. The short classes are absolutely brilliant. The longer class, the body language one that I've been on, amazing. Mary, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure and a joy. And thank you everybody for coming along. It's been brilliant. And thank you for all of your wonderful questions. I
It's been a
see you all very
pleasure.
soon.
Thank you.
Thank you
And
so much.
all the best with your writing. You can do it. I didn't think I could, but I did it. And if I can do it, anyone can do it.